Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm an addict named Kathy. I want to take this opportunity to first thank the convention committee, and I want to thank God. I always want to thank God. I thank God lots all day long. I usually start by sharing, if anyone's ever heard me share, by asking you that if I'm sharing while I'm sharing, any moment that I'm sharing, if you feel the feelings that go with what I'm saying, the experiences that I'm sharing, would you take that moment and thank the God of your understanding for blessing us with unconditional love, for giving us grace and mercy, and for making recovery available to us all. Just take a minute and say, thanks, God, because I know this message is from God. I know I'm just a messenger, and I believe everything that's happened to me through my entire life was absolutely necessary for me to be where I'm at right now. I regret none of it. I have no remorse over any of it. I am truly grateful to God that every experience that I have had has made me build character and placed me in the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, and I thank God for that. You know, I understand much better today, and I don't ask myself anymore whenever situations happen to me in life, God, why is this happening to me? Why me? I know why me. I know everything that happens to me is for me to help carry a message to somebody else that's struggling, for somebody else that's going to go through some kind of pain, so that I can have some experience to share with them and help them through whatever it is they're going through. I have purpose today. My life has meaning, and I thank God for it. So if anybody's ever heard me share, I tend to share about the steps and traditions because that's what I believe the program of Narcotics Anonymous is about. I don't share a whole lot about war stories because I lost that war. And you know what? I'm so relieved that the war is over. I'm so relieved that that war is over. And I share a lot about what's happened to me, probably more in recovery than anything else. Don't worry, newcomer, I will, however, qualify. I'm going to start off by saying to you that I share about the steps and traditions, and I share a story about them. It was real important to me when I came into recovery that I could hear a lot about recovery. I really didn't believe it was possible for any addict to stay clean for any period of time, but you somehow or another helped me understand that that was, and the readings offered me a lot of comfort, and the literature helped me understand that there was another way to live. But a lot of times in Narcotics Anonymous, people told me stories, and the stories helped me see recovery. You gave me a vision to follow, something that I could understand. I needed to see things in my head that they were possible. So I share a lot of times stories of how things have happened to me in recovery, and hope that maybe you can get a story that you can hold on to, and it'll help you during a moment that you're struggling with something, so that you can believe that it's real and it's possible. I share about the steps and about how the steps are an inside job for me. I didn't come to Narcotics Anonymous because I thought it was a good idea. I didn't come to Narcotics Anonymous because I liked you guys. I came to Narcotics Anonymous because I was in so much pain that I didn't know what else to do. And I did not come to Narcotics Anonymous to be miserable. If I was going to be miserable, I'd continue to use. I came to Narcotics Anonymous to find relief from the pain. And that's exactly what I have found here through the steps and traditions of Narcotics Anonymous. The first step to me has a lot to do with going inside, and I'm going to share with you how I live in my own skin today and how I find comfort within myself, how I ran all my life, before the drugs, way before the drugs. I ran from inside here with every bit of energy I had because it hurt too much in here to be here. And I sought outside of myself. I used people, places, and things long before the drugs came, trying to get some relief from the pain, trying to find some comfort. So I'm taking you to the first step, and I'm going to ask you to go down into the basement of your home, where you lived for so many years. If you can remember the days or the months before you first got clean, if you can remember the days of all that pain, of the isolation and the degradation and the humiliation, the despair and the loneliness, all that pain, wanting to die because we didn't know how to live. I spent so many years living in the basement of my own home, trying to find some kind of way to escape the pain. It was funny because I recently changed jobs, and my boss said to me, Kathy, there was only one little difference between you and me. He seemed to think it was little. He said, there's only one little difference between you and me. He says, I used drugs like you used drugs whenever you first started out. He says, and then when using drugs wasn't fun anymore, I just quit. And I thought, what a concept. You know, that thought never entered my mind, that this isn't fun anymore, let's just quit. Never entered my mind. It was a mission. It was always a mission, always had been a mission. I remember coming home from the penitentiary. I had finished doing 4 years in the penitentiary. I was still on federal parole. I think I was home for about 90 days, and I started busting scripts because by now I'm taking perks because I think that's better than shooting dope. And somehow or another, I get popped once again, so now I'm in federal violation, and I got 2 charges pending because that's how it works for me. That's how it always has worked for me. And I know I'm blessed because some people die, so I know I'm blessed that jail was my intervention. I always say I came to Narcotics Anonymous as a result of a nudge from a judge. I thought it was judicial intervention. I found out much later it was divine intervention. But at first, that's what I thought it was. And when I came here, I remember sitting in my PO's office, and my PO saying to me, Kathy, you've been home only for 90 days. You caught another charge. What is wrong with you? And I was thinking, I said, I don't know. That wasn't the plan. That was not the plan. The plan was to come home, be a productive member of society, take care of my daughter, do the right thing. I was even considering voting and, all these real social acceptable things. And, I had learned my lesson. I was going to be okay. And I don't know what happened. All I know is it happened. And she said, what is wrong with you? And here comes the supervisor in the office. Now it's starting to get real, because the bigger people are coming in. Somebody always had management of my life. I never was able to have any management of my life. And he says to me, the supervisor says to me, well, Kathy, you have 2 options. He says, one is you could go to treatment, or the other is you could go back to the penitentiary. What do you want to do? I contemplated, okay, jail or treatment. And I looked up with him. By now, tears are filling in my eyes. And I asked one very simple question. How long do I have to go back to the penitentiary? And I'm saying this to say, if you can get in touch with being in the basement and not having the ability to even hope that things could possibly get better. Being exposed to years and years of it getting worse and worse till finally we buy into the lie that it is never going to get any better. It is only going to get worse. We are going to die like this, and there's no sense in going to treatment because it's just a waste of time. I thought to myself, well, if I go to treatment and I come out and I use again, then what's going to happen is they're not going to give me time served. I'm going to have to go back to jail anyways, waste the time in treatment when I might as well just start doing the time right now. Now that's the kind of, like it said, it says in the first step that we rationalize the most outrageous sort of nonsense. That's the kind of stuff I had bought into. I lost the ability to even dream. I lost the ability to dream. All my dreams had gone down the drain. I remember somebody saying to me, a doctor saying to me one time, I had gone in the hospital because I had all these abscesses all over me, and this doctor says to me, my God, he says, you're killing yourself. Don't you know, like your liver's shot, and do you realize what you're doing to your organs? You're not going to live past 30 years old. And I thought to myself, who wants to live past 30 years old? I don't want to live that long. I'm in my early 20s thinking, I can't do that much time. I cannot do that much time with this disease. If God had any mercy, he'd let me die right now. Every shot was like, God, please, if you have any mercy, could you just let it be over right now? Because I can't take this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. I spent years getting up every day saying that. Years. I don't want to live like this anymore. I can't take this anymore. Living in the basement underground like an animal. When the text says our social skills were reduced to an animal level, look, the ability to feel human was lost. I no longer would look in the mirror and say, who are you? I would be looking in the mirror saying, what? What are you? What are you? My biggest fear was looking in the mirror and seeing who or whatever that was looking back at me. Because I didn't know what I'd become. My mother would say, I didn't bring you up like this. I don't even know who you are. And I would be thinking, welcome, I don't either. So lost and so alone, so hopeless and desperate. And then comes the second step, and I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous. Now look, I got sent to treatment anyways. They didn't send me back to jail. They sent me to treatment anyways. I have never been able to maintain a position in treatment. I have been thrown out of every detox and every treatment facility I've ever been in. They call me, I was thrown out of a couple methadone programs too. It's hard to do that. They said I was an undesirable for a methadone program. How is that possible? I don't even know how that's possible. And I went to this treatment facility and I got put out once again, and they used to call me Marvin Gaye, because I would walk around the halls in this treatment facility say, what's going on? I couldn't for the life of me figure out what was going on or what people were talking about. And there was nowhere else that I could possibly identify. And I'm not saying this to knock any treatment facility, and I'm not saying this to knock any other fellowship, and I don't even say this to knock any religion. I'm by no means anti-other fellowship, anti-religion, anti-treatment. My message is very clear and very pure. My message is you don't have to go to treatment. You don't have to belong to any religion, and you don't have to go to any other fellowship. That you can recover from active addiction exclusively in Narcotics Anonymous. Because that's my experience. And that's what happened to me when I came here and I was introduced to the second step. Because look, I came here and there was no light in this basement. I was totally in the dark. I was clueless. I was lost, but I was desperate and I just wanted some hope. And I came in here and I used to listen to the readings, and the readings were so comforting because they told my story. I identified well with the readings. And I remember one part of the readings, Why Are We Here, was my favorite reading. And there's a part at the end of it that says, we have a disease for which there is no known cure. Which I cannot say I was thrilled about having a disease that didn't have a cure. I was already pretty fucked up. I really didn't need a disease that didn't have a cure. But the fact of the matter was, the next part of the line said, it can, however, be arrested. I knew arrested. I was very familiar with arrested. You could have said put in remission. You could have, you didn't say it. You said arrested, and I think you knew that. And what I literally did in my mind was, because I always wanted to do this, cops would always arrest me and say, you're arrested. And I literally in my mind got these, I said, you're arrested to the disease of addiction, right? I was totally insane when I first got clean. I said, you're arrested, and I charged this disease with theft by deception. And I did it because I hated that charge. I have about 6 of them, and I have them because I was beating people, and I was telling them something that wasn't really true, right? And when I would go to court, I would argue with the DA that I was teaching them morality, and I was teaching them about, like, you can't get something for nothing. So really, I don't see why you're arresting me, because I'm doing a good job at helping, keep the morals of society up. And what I realized was this disease did the exact same thing to me. That it lied to me and it told me that I could be free from pain, that I could live life without pain, and that there was a way that was possible. And every time it told me that and I bought into that lie, I went a little deeper into the basement and I got a little more lost and a little more desperate. And I charged it with theft by deception, and I sentenced it just for today. And that's the way I started to work a program. I started to understand that this was a just for today program, and I didn't have to stay clean for the rest of my life, and I didn't have to do this for the rest of my life. I only had to do it today. And I used to even tell myself, I want to use. I'd say, well, just don't use today. If you feel like this, then use tomorrow. And every day was just for today. There was never tomorrow. So somehow or another, days just started coming together. I remember going to meetings, and I would have a really hard time sleeping at night. I couldn't get to sleep at night because I used heroin, and coming off of heroin, it's really hard to sleep at night. And I would try to go to sleep, and I remember going to a meeting and raising my hand, and I said, look, just for today is fine, but what do you guys do at night? How do you get through the nights whenever, when the nights are real quiet and it's real dark and there's nobody there, and all I'm left with is my thoughts that keep just racing through my head, and I can't seem to stop them. And even when I close my eyes, I feel like I can see through my eyelids, and sometimes I feel like I'm going insane. And how do you stop that? What do you do to stop that? And I remember writing a poem called Just for Tonight. And I used to say this poem over and over again at night to try to help me fall asleep. And the poem was, just for tonight, I'll be all right. In the quiet dark of the evening, my thought will not deceive me. I have faith in God above. I believe He's full of love. I have a ship to weather the storm. With help from all, I will transform. So hold on tight and don't lose sight, and just for tonight, I'll be all right. And I'd say it. And I just keep saying it over and over and over again, and I fell asleep. Now, I don't know if that's a spiritual awakening for anybody else, but it was a spiritual awakening for me. Because I woke up the next morning, I said, this shit works. It was like major. If something could possibly stop my mind from racing, then it had to be powerful. It had to be. If I could make it from the kitchen to the bathroom and not be obsessed with the thought of using, something powerful was happening here to me. And I was getting evidence, and I was getting proof. And then came, and I'm talking about getting a glimmer of light in the basement, getting a little bit of hope. First, I was a hopeless dope fiend. A hopeless dope fiend. I didn't even buy into hope because it was too disappointing. Why bother even hoping? It hurts too much whenever the progression kicks in again. So I stopped even hoping. I became a hopeless dope fiend. You were always my hope. You were my glimmer of light. Even when I didn't think I could do it, you'd tell me I could. You'd tell me it's going to be all right. I remember a girl holding me, not hugging me, not that burp kind of hug, you know, but one of those embracements. One of those ones where, you know, we hold each other because we know our pain. She held me and she whispered in my ear, "You don't have to live like that anymore." And I felt it in my gut. It wasn't just like a fleeting thought. It was a knot I felt in my gut that eased up. And I thought to myself, is it really possible? Is there even just a remote possibility that I don't have to live like, because I've been doing this for so long. Are you sure I don't have to live like this anymore? And I slowly but surely, the light starts to shine in the basement and hope starts to come up. And here comes the third step, and the third step is real simple. It says the decision implies action. We take the steps up out of the basement. We don't have to live underground anymore. We don't have to be reduced to the animal anymore. And I started to get an understanding of God, and I'm not religious. I have never, since I've been clean, been religious. I learned about God in Narcotics Anonymous because what I knew before Narcotics Anonymous was not loving and caring. And I came into here and you taught me about God because you shared about how you understood God. And when I would be going through a struggle, something would happen, somebody would say, God doesn't close one door without opening another. And I'd take a step. And you'd say, God ain't going to give you more than you can handle. And I'd take a step. And you'd say, God is good all the time. And I'd take a step. And you said, if God is for you, who could really be against you? And I'd take a step. No matter what was happening, God is good orderly direction, and I take a step. I learned about God in here, and that's the God that carries me today. What happened was I had about 2 years clean. I had twins, and their father started to use, and he couldn't get clean. It was very overwhelming. My kids were premature, and they were very sick, and I had gotten very sick too, and he decided to cop, and I decided to cope. And he could never get clean again. And I remember I would have to get up in the mornings, and I would have to get the kids dressed, and I'd have to get dressed, and I'd have to drop them off at daycare, and I'd have to run to work, and I'd have diaper bags on my shoulder, and they were so tiny because they were 3 months premature that they couldn't keep their heads up. Their heads would hang down. And I had one baby on each hip, and I was running into the daycare, and it was 90 degrees out, and I was sweating bullets, and I had never done this before. You gotta understand, I had never been a productive member of society. When you even said that in the readings, it wasn't even a desire. I didn't even want to be a productive member of society. I just wanted to, like, not use, you know, like, and not go to jail. That would have been cool, right? But somehow or another, I just kept doing what you did, and before I knew it, I had like gone to school, and I had gone to work, and I was taking care of kids and doing the next right thing, and I had a conscience, and I had direction, and I wanted to like be all I could be kind of thing, right? And so I'm taking the kids in, and it's one of those days where the self-pity's creeping in, and I'm really tired, and I remember I'm talking to God in the car, and I'm picking up the kids on each hip, and then the tears start to well up in my eyes. And I remember saying, you know, hey, God, wait a minute. He promised that we would be together as a family. He promised that he would help me with these kids. He said that we would share our lives together and we would be together. And God, this isn't fair because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to work a job and take care of kids and stay clean. And I don't know how to do all this stuff. God, please. God, please. I don't know how to do this. This is not fair. It's not fair, God, that he's out there using and he's totally irresponsible and I'm left with these kids trying to work a job and do the right thing. It's not fair. And I remember my sponsor telling me, don't ask God for justice when what you really want is mercy. And I remember the tears started rolling down my face as I'm walking down the hall with the kids. And I was ready to sit down on the floor and just quit. I just had it. I couldn't take it anymore. And just as I'm ready to sit down on the floor and quit, I felt my little girl's head like turn up and look at me. Now you gotta understand, they had no neck control at the time. Their heads were heavier than the rest of their body. It wasn't humanly possible for this child to turn her head up and look at me. She didn't have the strength. But somehow or another, the child turned her head and she looked up at me, and I felt it. And for that minute, I got out of my self-centered self-pity and looked over at her to see how she did that. And when I looked over at her, she smiled the biggest smile I ever saw that baby smile. Look, I'm talking about not just she smiled all gums, no teeth, big, huge smile at me. And I'm trying to tell you that at that very moment, I felt God smile on me. And I don't know if anybody's here, I don't know if there's anybody here that hasn't felt God smile on them, but if you haven't, keep coming back, because you will. The third step says that all that's required of this step is willingness, and all that's essential is that we open the door to a power greater than ourselves. And that's what happens in the third step. I get to the top of the steps and I open the door because we're on 4. And when I open the door, the house is dark. There's still no lights in the house. And all we have to work with, I always say this, is a little pen light, because it's through the pen we see the light. And we're going to go through the house and we're searching, and what are we looking for? We're looking for pieces of ourselves that we lost. Whenever I started to use people, places, and things, I slowly started to let go of my morals and my values. All the nevers that I swore I wouldn't do slowly started to take a turn. I used to hear a guy say, you know, we talk a lot about, oh, when you hit bottom, you'll get clean. You know, like when you really hit your bottom, then you'll like do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And look, I hit bottom in 1978. My clean date's 1988. This disease gave me a shovel and said, dig deeper. And I dug. And I dug. And I dug. I held on to every little thing I possibly could. I remember holding on to, if I ever shoot dope, I'll quit. I know, if I ever stick a needle in me, I'll quit. I know it. No, if I ever shoot dope in my neck, I'll really quit then. If I ever get arrested, that'll definitely be what'll have me where I'll quit. If I ever have to go to the penitentiary, that'll be the thing that'll make me quit. If I ever lose my child, I'm sure that will make me quit. And every single one of them happened, and I couldn't quit. I couldn't quit. And each time they happened, I lost a piece of me. And when I go through the house, I find little pieces of me. I find a little girl. When I was a little girl, I used to hide in the closet. And I would wait to see if anybody would look for me, or if they would notice that I was missing. Because I really didn't believe anybody cared if I was missing. And I used to sit in there and I would cry because nobody would look for me, and I would think, doesn't anybody care at all? that I'm missing? Doesn't anybody even love me enough to call out my name and even look for me? And I remember at a very early age starting to feel the loneliness in my gut and starting to feel the fear that nobody really loved me or nobody really cared about me. And it started then, and it just grew, and it grew. By the time I was a teenager, I started fighting a lot because the pain from the loneliness and the fear just turned me into anger, and I would fight a lot. I'd fight all the time. And the other thing I used to do was I learned as a teenager that I really needed some affection and attention, so what I settled for was sex when what I was looking for was love. And I used to know that if I got with men and I let them do certain things to me, that they would tell me that they loved me and they would hold me for a period of time, and I would feel like I was getting attention and affection. I never really understood why afterwards I always felt so empty and so dirty, but I would settle for that rather than get nothing at all. And then the woman is usually in the bathroom in the house, and she wants to die in there. I spent a lot of years in the bathroom just wanting to die, desperately trying to get the drugs in me, hoping that it would stop the pain, and losing the ability to even care for myself at all. I had to go to a doctor recently because I was trying to get some surgery to correct some of the damage of the past. And whenever I had to go to the specialist, I had to fill out one of those papers before you go in and see the doctor, because they ask you all your medical history of all the things that have happened to you. And I filled the paper out, and he started asking me questions about the answers. It's so fucked up. I don't remember. He says, when did you have hepatitis A? When did you get B? When did you get C? How'd you get these burns on you? When did you get diagnosed with any STDs? How many abortions did you have? And every time he'd ask the question, I felt the pain. Every time I'd think to myself, my God, you had to really hate yourself. You had to really hate yourself to do what you did to yourself. It's like in the reading of Why Are We Here? It says that we realized we were slowly committing suicide. I heard that reading many times in the over 9 years that I've been here, but that day I felt it. That day I felt it. I spent the whole day looking in the rearview mirror trying to tell myself I love you, and I'm not going to do that to you anymore. I'm not going to let you or anybody else do that to you anymore. But I had to go to 4 to find that stuff first before I could even learn how to take care of myself. And what happens is 4 is I find those pieces of me that are hurt, those pieces of me that are in pain, those pieces of me that I abandoned when I went into the basement looking for some comfort and relief from the pain, only to find isolation and loneliness. And here comes 5, and what happens in 5 is that all the lights come on in the house. 5 is like the fuse box step, and all the lights come on because what was so scary in the dark looks so small in the light. In 5 it says, these defects will die in the light of exposure. You know, it's funny, my little girl, like since my twin's father had gone back to jail again, I got left with all the financial burdens on myself exclusively. So we got really strapped, and we had to tighten up a lot of things. And my little girl came into me the one day and she says, Mommy, can I have one of those little computer pets? And I have twins, and I said to her, Ree, I don't have the money. I can't get them. And she says, you can't get one? And I said, Ree, you know that if I get one for you, I have to get one for Robbie. I can't get you just one. And Mommy doesn't have the money. I just can't do it. So she's standing in the kitchen, and she's really not understanding. And she looks up at me, and she says, hey, Ma, are we poor? Now, I'm talking about the 5th step, so stay with me on this. I don't like the way that sounds. I don't like the way that sounds. It sounds very depressing, right? So I don't want to cop to it. So I say to her, no, we're not poor. We're budgeted. So she looks a little confused and she says to me, well, Ma, what's budgeted? I says, well, budget is when you have money, but you just can't spend it. So she looks confused again, and then out of nowhere she says to me, hey, Ma. I'm talking about the 5th step now. She says, hey, Ma, just admit it. Just admit it, we're poor. I don't want to be poor. But the real deal is, if I don't admit to being poor, I'm going to keep spending money like I have money that I don't have, and I'm going to keep paying the consequences for being in debt because I can't manage myself. So if I don't admit it, I can't be responsible to change it. And if I don't admit it to you, you can't hold me accountable to it. And if I don't admit it to God, I can't tap into the power to change it. And that's really what the 5th step was about. Let the light shine on it. Admit it to God, to myself, to another human being. Let's get it to be real. So that we can do something to change it. Because if we don't, we will stay trapped in the vicious cycle. And here comes 6, and now that all the lights are on, this place is a mess. There's garbage everywhere. Everywhere. What's there? Pride is there. Greed is there. Gluttony is there. Envy, sloth, anger. It's all in there. I spent my whole life inviting things like that in because I didn't know how to take proper care of myself. Anger always says things like, anger's like stands in the corner with its back against the wall and its head up in the air and its arms crossed because it thinks it needs to look good. But you tell me, see, I believe this. I believe Narcotics Anonymous is like a toolbox, and we have a cliche for every character defect that tries to sneak up on us and rob us. Every character defect. So whenever pride tries to look good, you tell me I can't save my face and my ass at the same time. They're all there. It's like whenever greed comes, and greed always has a stash off to the side that's mine. It's always like mine. What are you doing with my stuff? And you always told me that you can't keep what you have. You can only keep what you have by giving it away. Like every single character defect, there's a cliche to stop me from doing what I always did. So here goes a good one. I'm at my home convention. I got a good friend of mine, Thomas P. from Baltimore's there. I've been trying to pull him up on his resentments now for over a year. This is a couple years ago, for about a year. And he's finally getting with the fact that, resentments keep us sick. And they burden our spirit. And that resentments are like me drinking poison and expecting you to die. And I'm trying to get him to and so Thomas is saying, I'm going to share, I'm going to free myself. And I'm like, you go, boy. And I'm trying to support him. But I'm working a commitment. I'm involved in the convention, so I'm in halt, big time. I haven't eaten, I haven't gotten enough rest, I haven't really interacted with anybody. I'm like service junkie to the max. So I'm not in good health and spirit. All of a sudden, I'm running down the hallway, and some guy says to me, this guy's Jamaican, Anthony, he says to me, Kati, Kati. I said, what, Anthony? He says, Louis P. said something so nasty about you that if I were you, I'd go slap him in the face. Now, I'm not in good health and spirit. I like to fight. I I have 9 years clean, and on any given day, I am subject to become defective in character. Now, here's the thing about the 6th step, is that in between, you need to know this now, in between obsession and compulsion, there is a hot second. Before we think about it and we do it, there's a second. That second is to pray. As soon as I think about doing it, I'm supposed to say, God, please help me, real fast. If I don't say it, I will do it. But sometimes I think that I can control this situation because I'm spiritually fit. So Anthony says to me about slapping this guy in the face, well, here this guy used to be my ex-husband's sponsor, and he has said things about me before. So they're still in there. I haven't resolved those yet. They're still in there, and this is the straw that's about to break Kathy's back, right? I am desperately reaching for recovery, though, so I say, well, Anthony, Louis P. isn't one of my fan club members. I've come to realize that everybody is not going to like me. I really would like everybody to like me, but the fact of the matter is I don't like everybody, and not everybody's going to like me. I did good. So he says, yeah. He says, I figured that because I tell Louis, I'm telling Kathy what you said, and Louis P. says, fuck Kathy. Oh, no, not fuck Kathy. No. Anything but not fuck Kathy. So I say, no, I'm like going through turmoil inside, but I haven't yet said, God, please help me. I know I was supposed to do something before he told me all this information, right? I know it's really important not to ask him what Louis said. Don't ask what he said. It just adds fuel to the fire. Don't ask. So I say I was going to do service work. I was going taping. Go do what it was I was supposed to do. Let it go. Just go, right? And here comes Anthony. He says, Kathy, Louis P. goes right there. Look, without my permission, you need to know this now. Without my permission, my body went over to Louis P. I had not made a conscious decision to do that. I was still struggling with, go do service work, leave Louis alone, you don't need to see him right now, you don't need to know what he said. I'm trying to talk myself out of really going to see, because I know I'm not in a good space, right? I know I'm not, but the body went anyways. And I find myself in Louis's face saying to Louis, Anthony said, I'm ready to fight, right? Because I'm doing this kind of stuff, like I know I'm ready to fight. You gotta watch the body will tell you what's going on. I said, and the hand's going on the hip, and my head's starting to do this. I said, Anthony said, you said something so nasty about me, I'm in the guy's face, that I should slap you in your face. And Louis starts getting nervous, which tells me he said something. Without my permission, once again now, the mind is going with the body, and my mind is noticing that Louis has his back towards 2 flights of steps. I don't want to know this information. I didn't ask for this information. Where this information's coming from, I know, but I don't want to know it. And something's telling me in my head that if I bump Louis and roll, he'll fall down 2 flights of steps. I could be like not held accountable because I'll be gone. And he'll learn his lesson not to say anything nasty about Kathy. And I'm thinking to myself, you're insane. You hear what I'm saying? There's like a battle going on inside of me. It's like recovery, addiction, and addiction's winning. Addiction's winning. So I'm saying to myself, oh God, I'm in trouble. Oh God, I'm in trouble. Oh God, I'm in trouble. Not please, Kathy, do you have a pair of swimming trunks? We're at a ski resort. The question was so absurd that I turned to the guy and I said, we're at a ski resort. He says, I know, but my nephew wants to go swimming and I need a pair of shorts or swimming trunks or something. I said, no, I don't have any, but there's some boutiques over there. Go check out the boutiques. And I turned around and Louis P. was gone. And what I'm saying is that I believe that just the fact that I tried, that I admitted to God that I was in trouble, that I really do believe that God honors effort. And sometimes, not does he only remove the defective character, but that stuff that leads us into temptation. It gets removed. But I'm not letting go yet. See, I believe that when it comes to 6, if you don't put these defects in the bag to have God remove them, I'm talking about cleaning up the garbage in the house. Pick it up and put it in the bag. If you don't pick it up and put it in the bag, then it will put you in the bag. I believe that. But what happens in 7 is that God removes the garbage, and I say, God, could you hold up a minute? I think I threw away something I really need. And so I start to sift through garbage looking for something that I can use. Because the house is empty now. And so what happens is I'm going to hold on to the resentment, so I'm not going to jump over the table or push Louis down the steps, but I'm going to call every sponsee that I have, and I'm going to tell them that Louis said something so nasty about me I should have slapped him in the face, right? Because now the war is on. And not only that, but I'm now preparing myself to go to Louis's home group, and when I see him at his home group, I'm going to step to him, and I'm going to tell him, what would you like to do, Louis? Would you like to put me on your 8th step list? Would you like to do a 10th step now? Or would you like to blow the whole program off like you've been doing for the past 10 years? That indicates a resentment. So I'm riding down the boulevard going to work, and I know this guy's renting space in my head. He doesn't like me. I don't like him. Why am I even letting him rent space in my head? What's it say? These defects will drain us of our time and our energy. I'm getting exhausted thinking of what I'm going to do to him. So I'm riding down the boulevard and I say, look, God, I don't want to be like this. I'm tired of holding on to resentments. I'm tired of practicing character assassination. I'm tired of doing the wrong thing. God, please help me. Please help me to let go. And I look up and the marquee in front of the church says, those who throw dirt lose ground. And I thought to myself, I don't need to do anything to anybody that character assassinates me, because they do it to themselves. And really, if I'm doing what I'm doing, then I'm no different than they are. And I felt the humility and was able to let go. And then here comes 8. And now that the house is clean, we find out we're living in a haunted house. There's spirits flying around everywhere that are talking to us about what we did to other people. And if we want to be free to live in this house with some rest and some peace, we have to address the spirits. and I start to make a list of the people that I harmed. It was real easy for me to identify, like, my family, that I had harmed them. I knew I had done major harm to my family, and I even was aware of some of the harm that I had done to some of the people that I had associated with. But I had a really hard time identifying the damage I had done to my community. I just really believed that if they would just mind their own business, they wouldn't have had such a problem with me. They used to, literally, my neighborhood I live in is mostly people that are retired. And they would be outside washing their cars and saying good morning to each other and everything. And I'd look out the window, because I'd always think they were the police. And I'd look out the window, and then whenever I would open the door to step outside, they would scatter. Everybody would run to their homes. And I'd never quite understood that, but really didn't care much, until I started to realize that these people, living the way I lived, I made it unsafe for them to live in their own homes. And that they feared they couldn't find comfort in their own home because I had no respect for my whole community. And I had to put them on the list. And what happened was, here comes 9, and I'm going to make the amends, is that I started living doing the right things. And I started becoming part of community involvement. My community used to do this. Remember when there was a war on drugs? Right? They went through this just say no shit. Remember that? Okay. They used to get together and they used to march up and down the street. And they would carry candles. And they would say, just say no, just say no, just say no. And then they would leave the candles on my steps. And they would stand outside my house chanting this, just say no, with these candles on my steps. It was spooky. And I never could understand what was wrong. I was thinking, they're lighting candles, my mother's in church lighting candles. What is it with the candles? I couldn't see the light, that's what it was. So as I started to make some amends, I got invited to the lady across the street's birthday party, which really blew my mind. Because I never thought that they would even say good morning to me, let alone invite me to a birthday party. And I went to this birthday party, and after it was over, she asked me to ride her back home. And as we're in the car riding back home, she's talking about how she's applying for a city job and how she really hopes that she can get this job. And I was sharing with her how I forfeited the luxury of being able to apply for any jobs with the city or the county or anything like that, because I have such an extensive criminal record that I can't get any of those jobs. And she says to me, Kathy, you know what I think? And I said, what? And she says, I think people like you that try so hard to stay clean and live right should get another chance. They should just wipe the slate clean and give you a chance to do it all over again, because I know how hard it is for you guys to get right again. And I thought to myself, even when I was looking at this theme, I thought to myself, yeah, it really is true that the time has come when we as addicts and society as a whole will no longer tolerate the lie that once an addict, always an addict is true. We do recover. I mean, it's a powerful thing to be able to say, yes, we're a vision of hope. We're not just a vision of hope for ourselves, we're a vision of hope for the whole world. That so many families are burdened with this disease of addiction, and that when they see us, they get hope. And that they do believe we do recover. They believe it. Look. And here comes the 10th step, and the 10th step is just about keeping the house clean. We try to maintain some discipline and keep some order. We don't want the house to be a mess like it was before. We don't want us to get that bad again. I don't want to live in the basement anymore. I don't want to be like that anymore, so I try to keep some order every day. I try not to let the patterns of the past sneak up on me and rob me here in the present. It was funny, my little girl and my son and daughter come home from school, and I would usually ask them, what did you learn at school today? And they would tell me like ABCs or some stuff like that. Well, one day they come home, and my son says he learned a certain word, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And I said to my little girl, what did you learn today? And she says, I learned that a lot of things will sneak up on you and they'll rob you. Look, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I looked at my son, I said, what is that? He says, Mom, I don't know where she got that from. We didn't learn that today. She's lying. So I go on about my business, and I've been doing really good. I've been practicing principles, doing the next right thing, and all of a sudden I go down to the gas station to get gas. And I go to a gas station that's self-serve to pump the gas, right? And I pull into the gas station, and I go in, it's prepay, because I live in the inner city. It's prepay. I run in and I pay. I have $10 to my name, and that's it. I have no other money, right? Go in, pay the $10. I start pumping the gas. Some lady locked her keys in the car, and some other confusion's going on over here. I'm minding my business, pumping my gas. All of a sudden, it gets to like $9. And you know how when it gets to, do you guys pump your own gas here? Okay, so you know how when it gets to like 980, it starts going 981, 980. It goes real slow, like it's a test in patience and tolerance. 993. It goes real slow. Well, it's not going slow. 980, 990, 10, 10, 10, 10, 20. I only gave her $10. So now I'm pumping gas that isn't mine. 10 step. And it's still going, 1030, 1040, 1050, 1060. Now all of a sudden I feel this like knot in my gut. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm still pumping the gas, and I feel myself looking around to see if anybody else knows that I'm pumping gas that isn't mine. But I haven't let go of the nozzle yet. So what do I tell myself? Of course, what any good addict would tell themselves. I did the right thing. I prepaid the $10. This gas must be free. Now we're at 11, 11:10, 11:20, 11:30. I don't have any more money. None. I have no more money, right? And all of a sudden, finally, I identify fear in the gut. And I'm starting to feel guilty. And I'm like, oh no, that's not good. Stop. Go back to the first step. Stop. Let go of the nozzle. Just let it go. Stop, stop, stop. So I let go of the nozzle, but I don't have any more money. Now I'm up to $12.20. So I say to myself, again, what any good addict would say, just put the nozzle back, at least you stop, you did the next right thing, let's get out of here. But I still feel the knot in the gut. I still feel the guilt and the fear. See, I'm talking about working the 10 steps so that I don't have to live life burdened with the wreckage of the past by doing the right thing in the present. I don't have to live in fear and guilt and shame and you hear what I'm saying? I like live healthy right now. So I say, what am I going to do? I don't have 220. I'm going to have to beat her. And all of a sudden I realized that I had quit smoking. And the money that I used to have in my purse, I now put in the ashtray. And in the ashtray, there's $2.20. So I go and I pay the lady the $2.20, and I said to her, I don't know what, but the thing went over $2.20, so here's the $2.20. She's astonished. She's like, oh, wow, thanks. I'm pretty astonished, too. She says to me, I don't know what happened. I smile and say to her, I do. A lot of things will sneak up on you and they'll try to rob you, so you better be careful. And here comes the 11th step, and as a result of the 11th step, I find peace in myself. That I no longer run from within myself to look for comfort, that within me there's comfort and there's peace. So wait a minute, I'm riding down the boulevard to one day. I hadn't been in a relationship for a while. I do really good when I'm not in a relationship. I'm doing really good, and I'm like doing service work, and I'm committed, and I'm helping others, and I'm all that, right? And I'm riding down the street, and all of a sudden I get stuck in traffic, and this guy pulls up next to me, and he says, "You're pretty." And I said, "Thank you." And then the light changed, and we stopped again, and we stopped right next to each other again. Like it must be God's will. And he says, "You are really pretty. Can I get your number?" And I said, "Okay." And I gave him my number. And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, God, how nice. I'm doing the right thing and practicing principles and being responsible. And oh, you sent me romance. That's so nice." And he gets me the number, he calls, we start going out together, but he's an everyday guy. You guys know what an everyday guy is? An everyday guy is like, like there's different kinds of people. There's everyday people and there's just for today people. And everyday people do the right thing every day and they have very little problems, and just for today people struggle to do the right thing every day and only can do it just for today. Well, he's an everyday person. But as we start dating, this everyday guy looks like he's a just for today guy. And the more we date, the more it's becoming very clear that he's not even a just for today guy, he's a one day at a time guy. And here, I have to help him get into detox. He wants me to be his sponsor. And I want to tell you, it's real humbling to think that you got romance and it's really a 12-step call. So look, I'm in a supermarket trying to get a card to send to him to try to help, give him support and everything. And I'm walking in and I said, "Man, hey God, like what's up, man? I really work hard. I try to do the right thing. I work on myself. Could you throw me a bone?" I mean, like, what's up? Because, it's real sad to reach a point, because I reached a point in recovery where I actually, a lot of things have happened to me in recovery, and I've received a lot of gifts. But one of the areas in my life that still remained very empty for me and very lonely for me was a relationship with a man. And I finally, after so many years of failing miserably at relationships and causing myself and others a lot of pain, I came to the conclusion that that part of my life was never going to happen. And so I kind of sacrificed and said, well, I stopped trying. I stopped even taking the risk. I abstained from sex for a year. I stopped dating totally. And it wasn't like I did this consciously. It just happened that way. And a part of me just believed that it was never going to come true and it just wasn't going to happen. And I stopped even trying any kind of way to get it to happen. And about a month ago, a guy that's been in recovery with me for about 10 years asked me to go out. And I was a nervous wreck, right? I was a nervous wreck because I really didn't even want to try anymore to have romance in my life. And what happened is we went out and we started seeing each other. And I'm here to tell you, man, that, if you're in recovery and you've like kind of sacrificed a dream thinking that it wasn't possible for it to come true, that it just wasn't going to happen for you, that maybe something like, like education or romance or something like that just was for the lucky people or something. Man, don't give up, because it says in the text, that lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise. And I'm in awe how God works, and I'm just so grateful to be part of the journey and to be able to live life knowing that there's nothing that's impossible. And you know what? Expect a miracle, because they just keep happening to me constantly. Here comes the 12th step, and the 12 steps open house. And my son says it best. He says, you know, Mom, we need to take care of the little ones. He's talking about the dog, but he says, we need to take care of the little ones. And I says, well, why's that, honey? And he says, because they don't know too much, and we sure wouldn't want anything to happen to them. And I really believe that that's what the 12th step is about. That it's about us taking care of each other and looking out for each other and helping each other. My grand sponsor used to have a poem that she used to say that was about passing the message on and giving to each other what was given to us and passing it on. And I want to dedicate this poem to a girl from New York named Jackie. Ray told me a lot of things about her, and I just really wanted to dedicate it to her because I wanted her not to lose hope that recovery is possible for everyone, and to keep coming back and don't lose hope. And I'm going to close with this poem. It's about helping the newcomer. It says, a lone man traveling a long highway came in the evening cold and gray to a valley deep and wide through which was flowing a rippling tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. That rippling stream held no fear for him, and he turned when he reached the other side to build a bridge to span the tide. Old man, cried a cynical voice from near, you're wasting your time building here. Your journey's over. It's the end of the day. Why build a bridge to span the way? The man raised up his old gray head. Good friend, this road I've traveled, he said. There followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. And this stream which was difficult for me, for that fair-haired boy may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building this bridge for him. I'm an addict named Kathy.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to thank our speaker again for hearing a beautiful message.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.